The rain-slicked alley behind the dive bar reeked of stale beer and regret. But Theo didn't care as he slammed his fist into the brick wall, the sharp crack of knuckles against stone echoing like a gunshot in the night. Blood trickled warm down his fingers, mixing with the downpour. But the pain was nothing compared to the hollow ache in his chest, the kind that whispered he'd never amount to anything more than this, a ghost haunting the edges of Brooklyn's forgotten corners. "Fuck you." He spat at the shadows, voice breaking like thunder, knowing full well the words were meant for the mirror-cracked reflection of himself staring back from a puddle at his feet. He'd come here to drown the voices in his head, the ones that had chased him since high school. Faggot. Loser. Why don't you just end it? But tonight, after his boss at the auto shop had called him a lazy queer one too many times and fired him on the spot, those voices had won. Theo slid down the wall, knees buckling, the cold seeping into his bones as sobs racked his body. Raw, ugly cries that no one would hear over the storm. That's when the hand appeared, strong, calloused, cutting through the rain like a lifeline he didn't deserve. "Easy there, kid." A voice rumbled, low and steady, like the bass line of an old Motown record. Theo jerked his head up, blinking through the blur of tears and water, and there he was, a man built like he could bench press a truck, broad shoulders straining against a soaked flannel shirt, dark hair plastered to a forehead creased with concern. His eyes, a stormy gray that pinned Theo in place, held no pity, just a quiet command. "You're not alone. Name's Jax, and whatever demon's got its hooks in you tonight, it ain't bigger than this." Theo wanted to shove him away, to snarl that he didn't need saving from some stranger who probably thought he was just another pathetic junkie. But Jax didn't flinch. Instead, he crouched down, heedless of the mud soaking his jeans, and wrapped those massive fingers around Theo's trembling hand, the one still dripping blood. "Breathe with me," Jax said, his thumb tracing slow circles over Theo's knuckles, a touch so gentle it felt like betrayal to his own self-loathing. And for the first time in years, Theo did. Inhale. Exhale. The rain kept falling, but the storm inside him, it started to crack. They didn't talk much after that. Jax hauled Theo to his feet like he weighed nothing, slinging an arm around his shoulders and steering him toward the bar's back door. Inside, the jukebox wailed some Springsteen anthem about broken highways, and the bartender, a grizzled vet named Mick, slid over a whiskey without a word, his eyes flicking knowingly between the two men. Jax paid, then guided Theo to a corner booth, away from the cluster of locals nursing their pitchers. "Tell me what happened," Jax said, not as a question, but as an invitation, his voice wrapping around Theo like a worn-in leather jacket. Theo stared at the amber liquid in his glass, the words sticking in his throat like shards of glass. How do you sum up a lifetime of feeling like an outsider in your own skin? Born in a Rust Belt town upstate, Theo had learned early that small-town America didn't have room for boys who dreamed of painting instead of playing football, who stole glances at the quarterback in the locker room instead of the cheerleaders. His dad, a factory worker hardened by layoffs and cheap bourbon, had caught him once with a sketchbook full of male nudes ripped from art magazines. The beating that followed left scars deeper than skin. "You're my son," Dad had growled, fist raised again. "Not some goddamn fairy." Mom just turned away, whispering prayers to a God who never answered. By 18, Theo had bolted for New York, chasing the myth of reinvention in the city's neon glow. But Brooklyn's underbelly chewed him up fast, dead-end jobs, hookups that left him emptier than before, and nights when the bridge over the East River looked like the only way out. Tonight's firing was just the cherry on top, a reminder that the world saw him as disposable. "I got canned," Theo finally muttered, voice rough. "Boss said I was. Distracting the other guys. Like I'm some kind of curse." Jax's jaw tightened, a muscle ticking under the stubble, but his eyes stayed soft. "That's his fear talking, not your truth. I've seen enough assholes like that in my line of work, construction foremen up in the Bronx. They lash out 'cause they know deep down they're the weak ones." He leaned in, close enough that Theo caught the scent of rain and sandalwood soap, and something else, strength, unyielding. "You're not broken, Theo. You're just waiting for the right hands to hold you up." It was the first time anyone had said his name like that, like it mattered. Theo's throat closed up, and he downed the whiskey in one burn, coughing as it lit his insides. Jax chuckled, a sound like gravel under tires, warm and unforced. "Slow down, Tiger. Night's young." They talked then, really talked. Jax spilled about his own scars. Growing up gay in a macho Italian family where alpha meant hiding who you were to survive. I boxed in my teens, Jax said, flexing a hand scarred from more than just work sites. Thought if I hit hard enough, the feelings would go away. Didn't work. Just made me meaner. Theo listened, mesmerized by the way Jax's lips curved around his words, the easy confidence that didn't border on arrogance. By last call, the bar had emptied, and Jax was walking him home. Well, to the ratty walk-up in Bushwick that Theo called home. At the stoop, under the flicker of a dying street lamp, Jax paused. "This ain't pity," he said, reading the doubt in Theo's eyes. "It's a promise. Coffee tomorrow? My treat. Pick you up at noon." Theo nodded, numb and alive all at once, watching as Jax's truck rumbled away into the night. Inside his apartment, peeling wallpaper and a mattress on the floor, he bandaged his hand and collapsed, the rain pattering against the window like hesitant applause. For the first time, the voices were quiet. Maybe, just maybe, there was a future after all. But dawn brought the hangover of booze and hope, and Theo stared at his reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror, hazel eyes bloodshot and wary. "Don't be stupid," the old voice sneered. "Guys like him don't stick around for fuck-ups like you." He almost called it off, let the phone buzz with Jax's incoming text unread. But something, curiosity, desperation, that ghost of a touch, pulled him out the door. Jax was there at noon sharp, leaning against his beat-up Ford, wearing a faded Yankees cap and a grin that could melt steel. "You clean up nice," he teased, eyes raking over Theo's thrift store jeans and the clean flannel he'd thrown on. They hit a corner deli first, steam rising from paper cups of black coffee, the air thick with the sizzle of bacon and the chatter of old Polish ladies at the counter. Over egg sandwiches wolfed down on a bench in Maria Hernandez Park, Jax asked about Theo's art, the sketches he'd glimpsed peeking from Theo's jacket pocket the night before. "You draw like you see the soul," Jax said, flipping through the notebook Theo reluctantly handed over. Pages of raw emotion, shadowed figures in subway cars, lovers tangled in alley embraces, a self-portrait where Theo's face dissolved into storm clouds. "This one's you, huh? The weight of the world on those shoulders." Theo shrugged, cheeks burning. "Just scribbles. Never went to school for it. Too busy surviving." But Jax wouldn't let it drop. He dragged Theo to the Brooklyn Museum that afternoon, flashing a membership card like it was no big deal, wandering galleries of Basquiat and Warhol until Theo's fingers itched for charcoal. "See," Jax murmured, standing too close in the dimly lit hall of contemporary abstracts. "Art's rebellion. It's how we say fuck you to the ones who try to erase us." By evening, they were on Jax's rooftop in the Bronx, a concrete jungle view of the skyline, fairy lights strung haphazardly, and a cooler of beers sweating in the heat. Jax grilled burgers with the precision of a man who'd learned to cook for one, and they ate cross-legged on a blanket, city lights twinkling like distant promises. Talk turned personal, the kind that strips you bare. Jax confessed to a bad breakup 2 years back, his ex bailing when Jax's construction gig tanked during the recession, calling him too much man, not enough money. Theo shared the bridge nights, the pills he'd flushed down the toilet last winter. "You're braver than you know," Jax said, his hand finding Theo's again, this time deliberate, fingers lacing like they belonged. The touch sent sparks up Theo's arm, pooling low in his gut, a hunger he'd buried under layers of shame. When Jax leaned in, breath mingling, Theo didn't pull away. Their first kiss was tentative, tasting of salt and smoke, Jax's stubble rough against Theo's smoother skin. Then deeper, Jax's hand cupping the back of Theo's neck, pulling him close like he was anchoring a storm. They tumbled inside eventually, Jax's apartment a bachelor's haven of exposed brick and weight benches, the bed a tangle of sheets that smelled like him. It was messy, urgent, Theo gasping as Jax mapped his body with hands that knew labor and longing, whispering praises in that gravel voice. "So fucking beautiful. Let me see you." No rush, no performance. Just two men reclaiming what the world had tried to steal. Afterward, spent and slick, Theo traced the tattoos on Jax's chest, a wolf howling at a fractured moon, and felt, for the first time, like he could breathe without breaking. Weeks blurred into a rhythm Theo hadn't known he craved. Morning started with Jax's truck idling outside, honking playfully until Theo stumbled down with bedhead and a sketch pad. They'd hit job sites together, Jax pulling strings for Theo as a laborer's apprentice, teaching him to wield a hammer without fear. "Feel that," Jax would say, guiding Theo's swing on a beam. "That's power. Yours." Evenings were theirs. Walks along the High Line, where Jax would steal kisses amid the wildflowers. Movie nights in Jax's living room, Theo's head on his thigh, laughing at dumb rom-coms until tears came, real ones this time. But shadows lingered. Theo's ex-roommate, a sleazy bartender named Riley, started blowing up his phone, texts laced with venom. "Heard you're shacking up with some meathead. Careful, he'll drop you like the rest." Theo deleted them, but doubt crept in like fog off the river. Jax, for all his alpha bluster, had walls too. Late-night calls from his sister in Jersey, whispers about family obligations that made his jaw clench. One night, after a brutal shift where Theo botched a measurement and nearly caused a collapse, Jax snapped, unfairly, "You gotta focus, Theo. This ain't a hobby." The words landed like a slap, echoing his father's ghost, and Theo stormed out, wandering the Bronx streets until dawn, convinced he'd ruined it all. Jax found him at a 24-hour diner, nursing coffee gone cold. No apologies at first, just a slide into the booth, hand extended, palm up. "I fucked up," Jax said finally, voice raw. "Seeing you struggle. It scares me. 'Cause I see me, back when I was lost. And I can't lose you." Theo took the hand, the fight draining out. They talked it through, raw and real, over pancakes that tasted like forgiveness. That night, back in bed, Jax held him tighter, murmuring promises against Theo's skin. "I'm all in. No letting go." It felt like building something solid, a foundation of trust, brick by brick. Theo started submitting his art to local galleries, Jax cheering from the sidelines with takeout Thai and brutal honesty. "That one's gold," he'd say, or "needs more fire, channel that anger." And the sex evolved too, from frantic release to slow worship. Jax on his knees one lazy Sunday, eyes locked on Theo's as he took him apart with lips and tongue, drawing out moans that echoed off the walls. "You're mine," Jax growled after, possessive but tender, marking Theo's collarbone with a bruise that bloomed like a secret. Summer hit New York like a fever, humidity thick as desire, and they escaped to Coney Island one sticky weekend. Boardwalk cotton candy melting on tongues, Ferris wheel kisses with the ocean crashing below. Jax won Theo a stuffed wolf at the ring toss, dubbing it our mascot, and they laughed until their sides hurt, the kind of joy Theo had only sketched in others. But on the train ride back, buzzed on cheap beer, Jax got a call, his face shuddering like a storm front. "Family shit," he muttered, pocketing the phone. Theo pressed, but Jax waved it off. "Later. Tonight's ours." Later came too soon. A week after, Jax vanished mid-shift, truck gone from the site, no texts, radio silence that clawed at Theo's gut. Panic set in. He left, just like everyone. Theo scoured bars, called hospitals, even drove up to Jax's sister's place in Jersey, only to be turned away by a harried woman with Jax's eyes. He didn't say nothing. "Sorry, hon." Back in Brooklyn, drowning in whiskey alone, Theo's phone lit up at 3 a.m. Jax, voice slurred and shattered. "I'm sorry. I can't. It's too much." The pieces fell into place the next day, courtesy of a mutual buddy from the site. Jax's dad, dying of cancer in a Queens hospice, had outed him to the family during a morphine-fueled rant. "That faggot son of mine." The old man had wheezed, and the siblings had descended like vultures, pressuring Jax to man up and cut ties with that phase. Jax, ever the dutiful alpha, had buckled, told them Theo was a fling, nothing real, to buy peace in his father's final days. Betrayal hit like a gut punch. Theo confronted him at the hospice, storming past nurses into the sterile room where Jax sat vigil, eyes hollow. "A phase," Theo hissed, voice trembling with fury and heartbreak. "You promised, Jax. Never let go." Jax's face crumpled, but his family loomed in the hall, sister glaring daggers, brother muttering slurs. "Theo, please," Jax begged, standing to pull him close, but Theo shoved him back, the wolf plush tumbling from his pocket like a discarded vow. "I believed you," Theo whispered, tears hot on his cheeks. I thought I had a future." He fled then, the city blurring into a smear of lights and horns, crashing through his apartment door to trash the sketches. ripping pages of their life into confetti. Days bled into nights of numbness. Job lost again, friends' pitying calls ignored, the bridge calling louder than ever. Riley slithered back, offering comfort in the form of lines and lies, but Theo pushed him away, too broken for even that. Rock bottom came on a crisp October eve, rain lashing the windows as Theo stood on the Brooklyn Bridge walkway, wind whipping his jacket, the dark water below a siren's song. No future, the voices chorused, louder now, drowning out the distant wail of sirens. He climbed the rail, boots slipping on wet metal, heart pounding a dirge. One step, and it would end. The pain, the rejection, the endless fight to be seen. But then, footsteps, heavy and sure. Theo, Jax's voice, ragged with desperation, cutting through the gale. He lunged, arms wrapping around Theo's waist, hauling him back to solid ground. They collapsed in a heap, Jax's body shielding him from the storm, sobs shaking them both. Don't. Jax choked out, face buried in Theo's neck. God, don't. I was wrong, scared shitless of losing them, but losing you? It's killing me. Theo fought at first, fists pounding Jax's chest, words spilling like venom. You threw me away. For what? Their hate? I'm done being your secret. But Jax held on, unyielding, whispering truths into the chaos. How he'd told his family off at the funeral. Dad gone that morning, peace bought at too high a price, declaring his love for Theo in a room thick with shock. You're my future, Jax vowed, gray eyes fierce through the rain. No more hiding. We fight together, or not at all. The dam broke then. Theo clung to him, the bridge's lights haloing their embrace, a fragile miracle amid the city's roar. They stumbled home, to Jax's place, now theirs, shedding wet clothes and walls alike. That night wasn't about reclaiming bodies, but souls, slow touches, shared breaths. Jax tracing the scars on Theo's knuckles from that first alley night. I love you, Jax said at dawn, hand in hand, the words of vow etched in light. And I ain't letting go. Months later, winter's bites softened into spring, and Theo's art show opened in a Soho loft. Walls alive with their story, wolves and storms, hands intertwined against horizons. Jax stood beside him, arm around his waist, introducing Theo as the man who saved me. The crowd murmured, but their eyes met, a silent promise amid the clink of glasses. Life wasn't perfect, bills piled, bigots lurked, but in Jax's grip, Theo saw it. A future, hand in hand, unbreakable. And as they walked home through blooming cherry trees, Jax squeezed his fingers. Told you, he murmured, lips brushing Theo's temple. We're just getting started.